Welcome to Creating Calm Parenting with Mind, Body, and Spirit. I'm Corinne Cayce, your co-host. I'm an integral leadership coach, a mother of two, and a lifelong student of the Edgar Cayce readings. And I am here with my friend and co-host, Arlene.
Hi, Corinne. Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Arlene Dijamco. I'm an integrative physician, a pediatrician, and a cranial osteopath. And we have an amazing episode for you today. We are going to be talking about angels, and specifically guardian angels, and what the Cayce readings have to say about guardian angels. And we'll also go through a 4-step process on how to best receive help from your angels and how to know you're receiving help from your angels. So as we get started, Corinne is going to lay the foundation with our opening meditation and then our opening excerpt as well.
Thank you, Arlene. Okay, so let's just take a brief moment, as we always do, to let ourselves sink into our bodies and come into this present moment. If you can close your eyes, please do. If not, just let your awareness turn inward for a moment. And let's just scan our bodies, finding your feet, ankles, your shins, your knees, thighs. Find your torso, let your belly soften. Feel the straightness of your spine and the beating of your heart. Become aware of your shoulders and your arms, all the way down to your hands and your fingers. Let your awareness come back up to your throat and your neck, the back of your head, the top of your head, your ears, and let your awareness cascade down your face, relaxing all of the little muscles that we use to express ourselves in the world. And come into your breath and feel your breathing body. So just take 3 deep breaths. All right, thank you so much. So, as Arlene mentioned, our topic today is guardian angels and angelic forces, as talked about in the Edgar Cayce readings. And to start us off, as always, I'm going to read an excerpt from the Cayce readings, and this comes from reading 5749-6. It was given on April 5th, 1936. And it says, "With the bringing into creation the manifested forms, there came that which has been, is, and ever will be, the spirit realm and its attributes, designated as angels and archangels. They are the spiritual manifestations in the spirit world of those attributes that the developing forces accredit to the one source, that may be seen in material planes through the influence that may aid in development of the mental and spiritual forces through an experience, or in the acquiring of knowledge that may aid in the intercourse one with another. How, why they took on form, that there might be implanted into their hearts and souls that fulfillment of those promises." So that was a lot. A lot was said in big sentences with lots of words, as is often the case with the Cayce readings. And we're going to take some time now to sort of unpack what's said in that reading excerpt and sort of more fully define and come into a shared sense of what the Edgar Cayce readings mean when they're talking about angels and angelic forces. So, Arlene, let's do that. Let's talk a little bit about what stands out to us in what's being said in this reading excerpt.
Yes, I actually love to talk about angels, and I think to better understand them, what we have to understand is that we're going to be talking about these concepts from the Cayce readings, and so even as we try to define certain things in our human words, they cannot encompass that which is infinite. So don't feel that it puts anything in a box. And the Cayce readings are clear about this, and especially as you delve into more variations in the readings as they were given for people. But to understand like the concept of angels, I find it helpful to back up and talk about soul versus spirit. And this was clearly written in the readings. And it said the question was like, what is soul versus spirit? And so Cayce said, this is one yet distinct, even as the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit is one, yet is the manifestation of a force that is capable of manifestation in the varied planes of development. The soul is an individuality that may grow to be one with or separate from the whole. The spirit is the impelling influence of infinity, or the one creative force that is manifest. Hence, we find that in the physical plane, we seek soul manifestation as the spirit moves same in the activity. So I feel like this fits many people's understanding of soul and spirit, but it's nice to see it out in words or hear it in words. So there's the greater source, the oneness, the creative forces, and then we have our individual essences, our unique expressions of that, our individual souls. And then we have the angels, which are more purely in the spiritual manifestation. So not necessarily manifesting into the 3D, but can influence us in our human existence. And I love this line. Corinne, you were going to say something about the guardian angel.
I was just going to talk about sort of the differentiation you're doing between the soul and the spirit, and sort of oneness that's happening in the spiritual realm. And then this excerpt 5749-6, that's kind of pointing toward, like, in the spiritual realm, there are these angelic forces. The purpose of these angelic forces is to help bring about greater and greater alignment, understanding, attunement with our understanding of truth and oneness, and that one source that's talked about in there. So there's kind of like, if we step back far, as Arlene is encouraging us to do, to kind of notice the energetic or vibratory nature of the universe and of consciousness, that at the spiritual level, so outside of the earth in this material realm, or distinct from it, there are these forces that are kind of coming together that are in support of our souls coming into greater and greater alignment with that one source, or that one creative force that's moving through the universe. And this is helpful for me to think about it in that way, because, as Arlene was saying, she loves talking about angels and is so comfortable talking about them. This is one of, a series of my very early conversations talking about angels. This is not an area that I have spent a lot of time that feels natural to me to kind of talk about, but certainly understanding the way that creative energy moves, understanding the difference between soul and spirit and oneness, and how we can bring ourselves into attunement and alignment. I spend so much time there. So I love thinking about this conversation through the perspective of, like, all of what is supporting us toward moving toward oneness, and that we are in relationship with, that we are seen by and can see through our senses in different ways, smells and feelings, and all of these sort of auspicious synchronicities that happen in our lives, the way that we are supported by these forces that are not in the material plane maybe, but so helping us move toward being in attunement with, being supported and held. And I think almost like in a motherly or familial way, that is so much of what this podcast is about, of, like, how to be in loving relationship with unseen and seen, beings in our lives.
Yeah. And there was a question somebody had written about, what do you do? Why do you feel alone or lonely sometimes? And it's really, not feeling that attunement or resonance. And it says in the Cayce readings, this is from 1662-2, for indeed the guardian angel is ever before the throne of grace for each and every soul. So we are sent, and this was one passage. In other passages, it's not just angel, it's angels. So
Right.
we are sent with so many helpers
Yeah.
for and whatever we're going through. And we are truly always supported. It just doesn't always feel like that, especially if we're facing a lot of challenges or feeling really down. But to know that it's always there, and we can choose to look and remember that we have these angels that are there to help us, and
Yeah.
uh, and are always, you know, with that attunement. They are always aligned, attuned with the oneness, with the creative forces. So that's that grace, that
Right.
love, the fruits of the spirit. They are always expressions of that.
Right. And something that I think I really noticed when reading a lot of material on angels and angelic forces was it's often phrased, there's often a phrase that angels are always facing the throne of grace and love, are always facing the Father, that angels are always in the face of the Father. And it's interesting to think about what does that actually mean. And I think it means exactly what you're alluding to, Arlene, in terms of like that angelic force is always 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 in attunement with love, with goodness, with the creative forces, with the one source. Like it is almost like a channel that we can align with to come into closer contact with, that we don't have to uh, feel that we don't have a way to find our way back to our own truth, our own sense of being in attunement and alignment in our lives, that there are these energetic pathways and supports for us to come into, to kind of remember and face, that's like always
Hmm.
moving in that direction, always looking for that, not living with the doubt and the fear and all of these sort of more challenging emotions that come with being human in the world right now,
Uh-huh.
that there's like a
Uh-huh.
purity there that's available to us.
Yes, and it's so interesting that they are always attuned with the oneness, because here, in the material realm of the Earth School, that we actually have choices. We have our free will, and so we
Mhm.
can choose to be attuned, but we don't have to be. But things tend to work out better if we are tuned with the creative forces, and we are part of those creative forces. There was a line in this was from 900-16. It says, "The place of the angelic being in relation to man is indicated. Man was made a little lower than the angels, yet with that power to become one with God, while the angel remains the angel." That's a curious line to me, but for me, that means what we were just talking about, just like in this human experience, we are meant to attune with the creative forces. We are meant to be creating and living in the world with that kind of attunement. And then from the spiritual realm, we have these influences of the guardian angels and our helper beings, that they can help us, but we're the ones that are manifesting into the material world. It can feel confusing at times, and when we're talking at something with such a grand scale, it can
Mhm.
be hard for the mind to wrap around it.
Mhm.
But if we remember that we have our choices, and if we choose to attune with the creative forces, then we have more love in our lives. We have more patience and more grace, and we are more pure expressions of all of that
Mhm.
in our lives.
Yeah. In one reading, reading 1646-1, Edgar Cayce was asked, is it through the guardian angel that God speaks to the individual? And the reading responded with, the guardian influence or angel is ever before the face of the Father. Through same may that influence ever speak, but only by the commandment of or attunement to that which is thy ideal. So I think that's an important thing to bring in, if we're having this discussion about like, here is this like pure channel of support and that is always available to us, uh and so facing the goodness, and is it the only way? No, it's not the only way that we can know what God wants to say to us or to be in relationship with the creative forces. But if we want to use that way as a way to connect to our own sense of truth, then we need to uh, direct ask for it, only by command of, like, asking for that relationship to open and be there, and or through the attunement to that which is thy ideal. So as we talk about again and again on this podcast, knowing what your ideal is and setting your ideal is kind of cornerstone, one of the bedrock invitations in the Edgar Cayce readings to kind of find happiness and live a meaningful life. And that, like, at the more spiritual your ideal is, the more deeply it's attuned to what brings you purpose and meaning and joy and allows you to love more in your life, the greater the capacity there to have those sort of angelic influences in your life. And I like the way that this reading says, it's the guardian influence or angel. So the word angel can be maybe synonymous with influence, right? With like support that's around you, that's impacting you as you move through your life. Yeah.
There was another line that we read from 538-59, which is so interesting because it gives you a broader idea of what a guardian angel is or can be.
Yeah.
And this also speaks of that life between human lives of like, what's happening when you're in this pure spiritual realm outside of materiality. So it says, for they become then what might be termed as guardian angels. See, these are the conditions. Study this that you may perfectly understand. The sojourn of the soul entity other than in materiality, so in pure spirit, often influences or bears weight with individuals within the material plane. As an odor, a scent, an emotion, a wave, a wind upon the activities. Such are termed or called by some guardian angels or influences that would promote activities for weal or for woe. Thus, does the association of individuals at times become as an influence in the activities of individuals through particular periods or experiences. Now, this is like really like this is also personally really beautiful for me right now, having had a good friend that recently crossed over, or as Cayce says, gone through God's door, from one plane to another plane of dimension, and from there, it's not like uh, uh, that soul is still, it's eternal, is still in existence, and so there's the possibility of that soul to be a guardian angel. And so you can think of your loved ones that have crossed over as guardian angels for you that you can call on at any time and
Absolutely.
continue that.
Absolutely. And this is a particularly interesting reading, perhaps for people who are students of the Cayce readings and know some about them. This reading, 538, that is for Gertrude Cayce, who is Edgar Cayce's wife. And she was asking about why she had felt like she had had a past life in Palestine when her life reading said that she didn't have a past life where she was in a human body during that time. And the reading is answering her, saying that both she and Gladys Davis, who was the stenographer for the Cayces and wrote down all of the readings, their ideal to be of support of this work, of these readings coming into the earth, and of Edgar Cayce as a soul and the work that he was doing was so in attunement with Edgar Cayce and with this work, that even though their souls were on a sojourn in another other dimensions, they were paying attention to Edgar Cayce and were these types of guardian angels for him during the lifetime that he had in Palestine, and that they were so close to him energetically that the experiences that he had during that lifetime created that kind of deja vu experience for them in this lifetime that they had lived then, because there was such an intermingling of their souls and their energies and the influence that they were having on him during that lifetime, which is a really beautiful thing to say, to imagine and to feel, just as Arlene was saying, for our own lifetimes, when either there are loved ones who have crossed over, or even those people that we may not be, have shared a lifetime in this lifetime with, that we'll be conscious of, but have are deeply connected with in the great arc of our soul's journey, right? That's a guardian angel type influence as well. And thinking about those smells that may awaken awareness within us, or the way that the earth, the wind, and all of these sort of beautiful metaphors that they're giving us for feeling our connection at a vibratory level to the support that we have around us all the time, and kind of letting ourselves be held by that loving presence is a way to connect to our sense of guardian angels or guardian angelic influences that are alive with us in our lives.
Yeah, so even though, with loved ones that have crossed over, there can feel like a loss, that there's a continuity in the connection and the relationship, or there can be, and the more that you allow yourself to realize that, to remember that, then you can to strengthen that connection.
Absolutely. And I feel like that cues us up perfectly to move into our 4-step process that can help us help our angels help us, is how Arlene was talking about it, as part of as we were
Yeah, I know. Just
discussing it,
imagine
right?
you're an angel on the other side and you're saying, "Help me help you." You know? So that's what they're like, "Help us help you. We need you to
That's right. That's right. So our
establish that
4-step
connection."
process,
Yes.
yeah, our
Yeah.
4-step process to best receive help from our angels, like how we can work with that in a sort of daily way, and also open up that dialogue with our children and our partners and the people in our lives. I feel like so much of the thrust, why I'm moving in outside of my comfort zone to have this conversation about angels, is how we normalize and naturalize the psychic energies, the vibratory energies, that which is unseen in our lives, how we normalize it in our everyday lives to really open up to all of what it means to be humans right now. So this is a 4-step process for receiving help from our angels. And step 1, Arlene, tell us what it is.
Attunement is first. The other ones can come in different order, but attunement has to come first, because that is how you establish the phone line, the connection, the vibration to it. And from the Cayce readings, this is from 1646-1. The guardian influence or angel, again, is ever before the face of the Father. Through same may that influence ever speak, but only by the command of or attunement to that which is thy ideal. So you can think about your ideals as like the fruits of the spirit, something aligned with the oneness with the creative forces. And so think of that, feel that, be that, and it establishes a more clear channel for your guardian angels to come through, because remember, they are pure expressions of the creative forces. And so if we fine tune our connection with the creative forces, then we can hear, feel, see their influence come through more. Then the next step, Corinne, is
to ask.
yes. Yes.
So to ask for help, to ask for support, to ask for guidance, to ask for help. This is that surrendering piece of remembering that if we're wanting something, we have to really name it and ask for it and claim it, that there's like so much that's out there. Like, I think in some of the readings that we were reading, there's so many sort of different influences that are wanting to come in and support and offer guidance. And we want to say clearly what it is that we're looking for, what it is that we're wanting help with. So to say that as a prayer almost, right? That talking to the creative forces is the way that the readings often talk about prayer. So it's that uh, asking for
Mhm.
guidance, step 2. And then
Yeah,
step 3, Arlene.
is to make an attempt to answer the question first for yourself, because
Mhm.
we're not passive in this creative process. So we're not just
Right.
sitting on the couch, which sometimes we need to do, but we need to ask ourselves too, so that
Yeah.
we are active participants.
Right.
And it says this in the Cayce readings. This is 423-2. Where material or mental aid is sought, answer the problem in the consciousness of self.
Mhm.
Then seek a verification in the period of meditation, and this aid will be greater. So that leads us right
Right.
into the fourth
Right.
step, which is
Right.
to seek verification.
To seek verification and meditation. And I feel like this is one of the most consistent reminders and invitations that's in the Edgar Cayce readings. Is like anytime you're trying to outsource an answer to someone else, and people would try and do this with Edgar Cayce himself, right? Tell me what I should do about this. What's the right answer here? Again and again and again, the readings encourage you to look within your own self, to find the answer within your own self. You are the best one to answer this always be. And because within us is the connection to everything else, right? So the more that we claim that and give ourselves permission to prioritize that connection, seeking that connection, which often is difficult for us because it requires us to put down things, to simplify, to Google less, to like seek less advice from experts, to quiet ourselves, which is such an important part of knowing what's true for ourselves, to be able to answer the question for ourselves. And then seeking that verification and meditation is super clear in that reading, and is our step 4, which means how do you know? Through meditation. That can be clear, simple mindfulness meditation. We're getting quiet, we're working with all different sorts of meditation and what that means for you, how you have learned to meditate or are willing to learn to get quiet, to listen to that still small voice within, to seek that verification that allows you to feel the confidence of knowing this is what's right for me, this is what's true for me, and really owning it yourself. And that happens in an individual way as we answer questions within our own selves, and it can also happen within our family systems. It can happen within the organizations that we work for, the groups that we are a part of. Like, the more that we're willing to take the time to deeply connect to what our spiritual purpose is, spiritual being, that which is motivating us and moves us through our lives and inspires us, rather than being distracted by all of the ways that we can uh, think that our success or our truth has some sort of physical manifestation that it should look like, in terms of how much money we're making, or what success looks like in external ways, but really returning to that our spiritual sense of ourself, asking for help, answering the question for ourselves, and then allowing there to be space to get quiet and to touch in and to listen. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And I mean, as we talk about it, just feeling that support coming through as we continue to attune ourselves with that vibration, and know that no matter what challenges we're faced, that we can seek for this help from the spirit realm, and it's there for us. And if we follow this simplified 4-step process, seemingly simple but profound, then it can unfold into miraculous experiences from day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully this conversation is an invitation, maybe for those of you who are like Arlene and love talking about angels and exploring it, just kind of like refreshing and getting a perspective from the Edgar Cayce readings on what are angelic forces and angels in our lives. Or if you're more like me of like, wow, I never really talk about angels, and like, how do I even feel about using that term, and how can I personalize it for myself and making it meaningful? Like, hopefully we've come at it from this unique perspective in the Edgar Cayce readings, and then offered a really tangible 4-step way of beginning to deepen or initiate a relationship with angelic forces in our lives, that we can really open up to the unseen forces in our lives to help us find our truth and feel happy and connected and able to navigate this incredibly complex and challenging world that we're all living right smack dab in the middle of right now. So thank you so much, Arlene, for going on this journey with me. As always, I love your voice and perspective, and being able to explore the readings with you always. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Corinne. It's always great to be here with you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us as well.